you can feel the music. Wow. Simple Car Guy here, and today we are doing a custom install of this Alpha 1 amplifier by BimmerTech on my BMW X7. This amp is compatible with a lot of BMWs, and BimmerTech makes it easy to adapt it to basically any modern BMW. It comes in a very nice box with a booklet telling you to go to their website for further instructions as well as a sticker. These amps are on a smaller size but pack a great punch. This great packaging makes it easier to install in the place of the OEM amplifier or as an additional amplifier after the booster and RAM modules on the newer cars. There are lots of connectors on this amp, but we will only be using a few of them for this install. In the box, we also find power wires so that we can hook it up to the battery and a USB cable in case we want to customize the amp. I'm super excited to get this installed as we will be going from 465 watt total output from the OEM system to about 1500 watts max or 800 watts RMS. That should really provide a nice boost in quality, volume, and expand the bass capabilities in a clean and safe way. I also got this DIY Essentials toolkit from BimmerTech, which should have almost everything you need to complete this job. A cordless driver speeds things up a little here, but not necessary as the kit includes a ratchet with an extension as well. Pretty handy if you're new to working on cars. If you've been following this channel, and particularly the Z4 videos, you might remember that I installed an Alpha 1 amplifier in this car, and it made a huge difference to the quality of the sound, especially when driving on the highway. Since this is a convertible, the volume has to be up when you're driving at speed, otherwise you can't really hear anything. And once I heard how good it sounds at those higher volumes, I was so impressed that I wanted to install the same amplifier in my BMW X7. The install on this one is a little bit different, but we'll get to that later in the video. On this BMW X7, a lot of the audio equipment is located in the rear, behind the trim panel on the left side of the car, and we will need to have plenty of access there. So we start by removing the C-pillar trim panel. The screw is located behind the airbag cover, and you will need a T25 Torx bit to get it removed. Then it simply pops out. Same goes for the D-pillar trim panel, but it also has two clips holding it in place, so it takes a little more force to remove. Before we can remove the entire trim panel, there are a few extra bolts to take care of. There is one hidden under the little trim piece by the rear seat controls, and two more inside this mounting area under the cover. You will need a T30 bit for this one. After removing another bolt on the C-pillar and two on the D-pillar, we can finally pop the entire trim piece off. This gives us plenty of space to unplug the controls. The cup holder plug is a little tricky to remove, so a sharp pick can come in useful here. With the side panel fully removed, we can also remove the luggage compartment trim panel, which is held in with a couple of plastic rivets. Don't pull too hard on this one as there are a few connectors to remove there as well. With all of the trim pieces out of the way, we finally have access to the receiver audio module, or also known as RAM, which we have to remove. I started by undoing bolts for the actual module, but you don't have to do that. It's easier to just remove the 5 bolts holding the entire bracket that the module is attached to. Then all of the connections can be disconnected and the wiring loom cable clip disengage from the bracket. In my case, I also had to disconnect the LTE compensator module on the inside of the bracket before I could remove it completely. Now we finally have access to the post amplifier bracket, which isn't being held in by anything else at this point, but a couple of simple clips that can be popped off pretty easily. The cable is really long, so we can undo the connector once it's completely removed, and now we have all the modules and brackets that we will need to make this work. One item I haven't shown you yet is this wiring kit. So this comes with the amplifier as well. And of course, this is going to help us wire these items into the vehicle and at the amplifier at the same time. So we have the booster and the RAM plugs right here. So this will go into the wiring loom on the car. These are going to plug into the actual module. So this is the RAM and this is the booster, or like the original amplifier. And this goes into the actual amplifier right here. So on this side right there, we're gonna plug everything up. So let me do a mock-up plug up and then see how that all works. Of course, To get that extra power, we have to wire it into a battery, which shouldn't be too difficult, and then find a place to install this, as they don't have a custom bracket for this BMW X7 yet, but hopefully within a couple of months they will, as I will be sending the measurements and whatever else they need so they can create a bracket that will help us or help you get this installed much easier in the future. So let's mock all of this up and see how it all connects. The wiring kit gives us plenty of length, so there shouldn't be any issues with getting everything situated properly. At the moment, we basically have everything plugged up. This will just go into the car's wiring loom, connect this to the actual battery, and get everything installed and find a spot for our amplifier. It's pretty easy to get to the battery in this vehicle. Well, I say easy, it's not that easy, but it's basically behind this thing at the bottom. So we're gonna pull this out and get to the battery. And there's our battery. Of course, before messing with any electronics, it's a good idea to remove the negative terminal on both batteries. There's one here in the back and one in the front. So I removed the fuse, that way I don't actually have a connection to 12 volts when I'm routing this around. I mean, it's pretty secure and I don't think anything would happen, but just in case, I'll put the fuse in basically last when everything else is wired up. But now I can see how far I can reach with this cable. So I should be able to go under all of this ducting. Maybe I'll remove this part right here, go underneath, and then go all the way up into that corner. Well, fortunately and unfortunately, I have a 5-zone climate system in this vehicle, so there's a lot of ducting everywhere. In other cars that don't have 5-zone system, you probably have a lot less of it, so it'll be a lot easier to get this power cable up there. Okay, so I can reach all the way here. That's perfect. We'll find a suitable ground soon, something closer to the amplifier. There's a nice nut over here, so probably something there. All right, so with the wire in the correct spot, I have to figure out where to actually install the amplifier. And well, I found that it will basically fit on this bracket that had the booster module on it, so like the original amplifier basically. Originally, this amplifier would have been somewhere right here, just like that. So it'd be installed like this. But what I have done is kind of moved it to this side. So now it's going to be installed right here. So we have moved it this way on the bracket. I've drilled a little hole, so I'm going to put a screw and a nut through here to hold it in place. And then we're going to take the actual amplifier, the new one, and install it just like that. So that's going to be our new mounting bracket, and I should have enough cable to reach all the way in the back of this unit. On the other side, so on this side here on the back, I'm going to put a screw through the bracket, drilled another hole, so that's going to hold the amplifier in. And to make it a little bit more secure, because it's only one screw that lines up kind of perfectly for me, I will be using some double-sided tape. Put a couple strips, get it glued onto the bracket, put a screw through it, and maybe even add a couple of zip ties. It should be in pretty well in there and, well, work just fine. So let's get it all set up and get it installed. All right, that's pretty solid on there. I'm pretty happy with that actually. So obviously I bent this bracket out. So I bent this flat so the amplifier would fit in here. A little bit of modification, but I think that works pretty well. Let's give it a try to see if it actually fits. I've kind of done all the measurements and hopefully it will just go in. Let's see. Hey, look at that. That works pretty well if you ask me. All right, so here's the final install. I've added the double-sided tape. I've secured everything in place, added a little zip tie in here, so this is super solid. Of course, I added some double-sided tape on this side as well, so kind of as much as I could. It's definitely solid in there, but what I've done is I've taken this bracket and I put it over the top with slightly longer screws. So I went to a hardware store and just got like 8mm screws, so they're a little bit longer. And now it's super solid in there, so it's basically clamping the amplifier to the bracket. It's not going anywhere. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this setup. Let's get it installed just right there, wire it all up and give it a test. Since I'm not going to have a lot of space to work with, I'm going to plug everything in that I can that makes sense to plug in here at the bottom. And then we're going to put it, well, inside the car. All right. But I can also plug in this module right now as well. This is the booster. My power wire is right here. So as I'm feeding it in, I'm going to plug in the power wire as well. It is still disconnected at the battery. The fuse is out. Okay, so this gives me a chance to plug in my power. Kind of have to do this a little bit blind. Okay, that's plugged in. Okay. All right, well, that's basically in. We have the wires coming out. So we're gonna plug this into the car, but right now that's all good. We have the amplifier plugged in. We have the booster plugged in. I'm gonna grab this USB cable that comes included. It's a mini USB, and pull it out just a little bit so I have access to the USB port right there. All right, so that's in. There's just enough space for it, so I think we're okay. Probably gonna route it to the trunk here so we can always access it if needed. Pull it out right there. Now we can grab our second bracket. So this is where the RAM module is. See if we can feed that in there. We can probably plug it in at the moment now as well. We're gonna plug in the RAM wiring loom into our loom from BimmerTech. And then we're gonna plug this into the actual amplifier. I might pull it out just a little bit to make it easier now that I know everything fits perfectly. This is gonna go in like that. The last one is this booster plug from the vehicle's wiring loom. So we can go over the top, come out over here, get that plugged in. Of course, we can't forget the little module on the back. We gotta plug that in as well. Okay, so here's a closer look, just in case you weren't able to see that well. We have all of the wiring plugged into this module right here. We have the connector from our wiring loom that came with the amplifier going into the module, and then the other end goes into the car's wiring loom. So that's this one set up, and all of these just go where they originally went. Nothing special there. Obviously, don't forget to plug in this little guy. There's a couple of antenna looking plugs, so like that one and the other one, and there's a black connector as well. So for the original booster, we have that plug right there that we just plugged in earlier, and that goes into our wiring loom that came with the kit right here. So it has booster, and this booster plug right here on that side goes into the wire loom, so that's going to be this long one. So now we just got to organize the wires a little bit, and I think we are done. Surprisingly, I had no issues tucking away all of the wires, as there is plenty of space here, and then I put the bolts back in to secure the brackets. I used a ground post that was in perfect location right next to the amplifier for my negative wire, and now I can finally put the fuse back in and reconnect the battery. Don't forget to reconnect the front battery as well. I jumped in the car and played some music to make sure everything was connected properly, and it was. Now I can put the car back together knowing that everything is working. I tucked away the USB cable next to the battery so I can get to it through the access hole anytime I want to, and with that, we are done. Well guys, it's been a couple of days since I installed the amplifier, as I really wanted to get a feel for it before I give you my thoughts on it. I was expecting a lot from this little amplifier, as it made a huge difference in my Z4, and I have to say, I wasn't disappointed. In fact, the first time I listened to music after the install, I couldn't stop smiling. It was that much better. It made that much of a difference. So let's give it a test. Of course, I can't play any copyrighted music, but I'm gonna play a couple of songs from YouTube audio library, just so I can give you my thoughts on it. All right, let's play. So volume is up about 30% right now. And wow. So right now there's not a lot of bass, very clear. Bass kicked in. Oh, it's so deep. It's not overpowering, it's not like crushing your ears or anything. Sounds very clear, very well balanced, good deep bass with very crisp high notes. 50% volume. You can feel the music. Wow. It sounds so good. I mean, what I love about it the most is that it's not overpowering. it's loud without being annoying loud. I don't know if that makes any sense, but if you've been to a bad concert with like bad speakers and you can hear like the zinginess in your like ringing in your ears, this doesn't sound like that at all. Very clear. Oh, you just want to crank it up more and more. Woo! Here's another YouTube audio library song. Sounds pretty good. I really like the high crisp mids and of course the highs as well. There's no pitching or anything weird happening, which is just so good. If you have newer BMWs, you know that the sound system's not amazing on it, but after installing this amplifier, it does sound amazing out of the box as it comes preloaded with the DSP tune. But if you're particular about your preferences, you can connect with a sound engineer and adjust it further to your liking. I wanted to make sure that it sounded great no matter what type of music I listen to. So as you can see, I like hip hop and that kind of music, but my wife, for example, likes more classical type of music. So I connected with the audio engineer who was very knowledgeable about BMWs, sound systems, and of course their amplifier. We made a few very minor adjustments to make sure the bass wasn't too harsh and hit just perfectly regardless of the song, as well as adjust the mids and highs for that high-end sound. It turned out way better than I expected. This car already has the Harman Kardon sound system, which isn't bad, so I can only imagine the difference this would make if your car had the standard HiFi system. I believe this is one of the best upgrades you can make on your BMW if you enjoy good quality sound, and I hope this video helped you understand what kind of steps you would need to take to do it yourself at home. It took a few hours, yes, but it was totally worth it. If you're interested in doing this yourself, you can type in your car's VIN into their website and it will show you which audio system you have and what is compatible with your specific car. Of course, this will work on almost any modern BMW, so it doesn't have to be a BMW X7. This makes it really easy to pick components that will make the biggest difference for your car for the money. Click here if you'd like to see other mods I've done on this car so far, and click here if you'd like to see how to change the oil and filters on this BMW X7. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!